The Galaxy Z Fold 3, the phone that turns heads and raises more questions than answers. One of the only phones that stands out in a sea full of glass and metal slabs. I'm Kevin the Tech Ninja, and this is the Galaxy Z Fold 3 after 30 days. The $1,800 phone from Samsung is their third try at this whole foldable phone. The Z Fold 3 is a big refinement over the Z Fold 2. If you had the Z Fold 2 and then you move to the 3, you'll notice a lot of subtle differences, but if you look at the Z Fold 1 compared to the Z Fold 3, it is a completely different phone. I'm so glad that Samsung stopped using glossy materials on their phone. That is one thing that I just didn't like in the past, but they went to this matte finish, which I really dig. This phone does come in a few different colors depending on where you buy it, but that doesn't really matter because my sponsor Dbrand can make your device look completely unique. You can get all these different colors and styles and textures. For less than 20 bucks, you can make this phone look really, really amazing. Hit my links down below to debrand your device. Now, once you get the phone in your hand, you'll be completely blown away by the build quality. This feels like Samsung's magnus opus when it comes to build. Everything just feels very tight and refined. And then once you open the phone up, you can just marvel at everything behind it. It's like a little dance when the phone opens up, the back hinges go, it slides in. It's just a really nice feel. And it looks very good. Also, when it opens up, it doesn't have that jank or a click or a snap. It smoothly opens up and fully extends. Now, speaking of that hinge, Samsung says it's the strongest material used on any phone, and it can withstand roughly 5 years of open and closes. When closed, the Z Fold 3 is a clunky phone that is pretty awkward to use with one hand. I would say for me, it's too narrow to type on, but at the same time, it's too tall for me to try to really use it with one hand effectively. Like reaching that notification shade at the top requires a lot of hand movement and it just doesn't feel great. So the scenario that Samsung paints, like you get a message or you need to do something on your phone that isn't keyboard heavy, then yeah, this works. You can type a quick message on this screen if you want, but if you want to do something bigger, like write an email or anything like that, then yeah, you're gonna open it up and experience this phone like it's a tablet. Now, I did find myself fumbling with the front screen so much to even send a short text message or, reply back to that quick email that I just opened the phone up to do everything at that point. And then it no longer is this small pocketable phone. It ends up being this larger tablet-like phone because I'm always opening it up to do every little just minor task. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, as people like a larger screen experience. More and more cell phones are getting bigger and bigger, and this is just a way to get you the biggest possible screen in the smallest form factor. And this is a great way of doing it, and Samsung has, figured that out. And for what it's worth, since we're talking about the display, it looks great. It's 120 Hz Super AMOLED. And what that means is you're getting one of the best possible displays on this phone, period. The colors look really good, the black levels are very deep, and also the screen is fast, meaning your reaction time, everything you do is just very smooth. And that is the case for the front display and also the internal display too. So you're getting that anywhere you access the phone, you're getting these great high-end specs, which is really nice to see. When the display is open, that's when you can, use the phone as it's intended. It's like putting a Ferrari on the freeway instead of city streets. This is where you can really maximize the full power. And yes, I know what people in the comments are gonna say, but there's a crease in the middle. There is a crease in the middle, but you can ask anyone that has used the Fold for several days. After a while, you really stop thinking about it. You just use the phone as intended. And a lot of times, lights and videos and other outside factors can make the crease look bigger than it really is or more pronounced. But I tell you what, when using it, you just don't think about it. Having a bigger screen makes things like sending emails, gaming, YouTube, all that just better. And the display does have one more hidden trick up its sleeve, and that there's a camera under the display. This is some pretty new technology. Samsung is not the first to do it, but yeah, we need to talk about this in a little bit, so hang tight on that part. Now, speaking of talking about that, hey, make sure you hit subscribe down below if you're watching the video and you're not subscribed. It looks like 85% of people who watch my videos are not subscribed. What are you doing? Make the change, make the best decision of your life. Hit subscribe and ring that bell notification. Samsung also added in some software to make this phone even more of an asset, like being able to launch 3 apps at once. So watching YouTube, having Twitter open, and the Notes app, all at one time is possible. There's not many other phones that can do this, and especially do this well. It also has the ability to use the newer S Pen that has a retractable tip to protect the screen. So no, if you have an old Note laying around, you can't use that S Pen. You'd have to go ahead and buy one of the newer S Pens. The S Pen Fold Edition is $50 and it works like any other S Pen minus the Bluetooth functions. So you can use it for quick inputs, signing contracts, marking up documents, all those things. Now, if you want those enhanced functions like you see with the Note, like the remote shutter and air gestures and things like that, then you have to actually get the S Pen Pro, which is $100. I will say one of my favorite features of this phone has to be gaming. Number one, with the specs inside the phone, you know you're going to get a beast of a performer. There's no question at all. But with the larger screen, games look so much better and on-screen buttons are so much easier to hit. I will say this processor does run a bit hot at times, which some games significantly can heat up the phone. It doesn't hamper performance at all, but it's something you should definitely be aware of because some of these games that you're playing makes your phone pretty hot, in turn can kill the battery a lot faster. That is something with this chip that for whatever reason just really has an issue with a lot of high-end games. But regardless, even though it attacks the battery pretty well, I would say gaming is just really fun. Playing Xbox Game Pass with an Xbox controller on this big screen, there's nothing that can replace how that feels, how it looks, and all those things. And when you include the speakers that are really good, you get a very good gaming experience that you can't find on any other cell phone. Now, cameras is going to be the part of this review that sort of gets confusing because there are so many different cameras and modes. So I'm going to do my best to sort of filter out just the important things. So you have wide, you have ultra wide, and you have telephoto. And when you turn on the viewfinder, you now have access to all 3 of these cameras as a front-facing camera with the screen open. It's a really cool feature. It allows you to use the best possible camera for front-facing shots. And the results I find are pretty good. You can use the front-facing camera if you want, which gives you okay results depending on lighting, but it is a noticeable step down from the rear cameras. And then you have the 4 megapixel under display camera, and yeah, it's pretty bad. The image looks like it's painted as your skin and hair is so smooth. I guess for video calls like Skype or WhatsApp, it's fine. But if you're taking still images, I think it looks like the front-facing camera from phones many years ago. It's new technology. I'm glad Samsung is trying it, but I think we're just a little ways away from it actually being that good. Something that I would want to take a picture on and share it to people. When using the rear cameras as a primary camera, then you could expect a pretty decent outcome. The ultra-wide lens loses quality around the edges, but the main focal point still looks good. Low light performance on all lenses are not what we'd expect from a flagship setup, but it's just okay. I've seen better, I've seen worse, but flagship phones over the past few years have always been a little bit better than this and always was kind of a step up. This right here is definitely a step back. It's possible for most shots that people won't notice a major drop off from the S21, Pixel, or iPhone. I will say when I'm trying to take a picture of my kid, the shutter's pretty slow and it just doesn't look good. A lot of the shots are blurry. It's really tough. But Samsung added a feature a couple years ago called single take, which I think is one of the coolest camera features on any phone, and not a lot of people use it. So here's how I use it. With single take, you press the shutter button and what happens is the camera starts taking pictures and videos and start capturing all this detail from all the lenses at the exact same time. So even if my kid is running around, jumping and all those things, I have plenty of pictures and videos to go through and find the best one. Within the software, it picks out the best image for you, and from there you can manipulate and change it around and you end up with a decent shot. I like single take mode just for taking a picture of moving objects because you can't get a kid to stand still, obviously. Battery on the Z Fold 3 isn't great. With a device like this, I'd expect to use it all day. I would want to use it all day. That is possible with more manageable tasks like texting and maybe a few apps. But once you start tapping into the power that you want to do with this phone, like running 3 apps at once, Xbox Game Pass, high-end stuff, then the Fold struggles to make it a full day. So I guess the question that I want to answer, that I try to answer in every single video is that who is the Fold for? For $1,800, it is a tough sell for many people. I do want to give Samsung credit for bringing the price down, and also with the trade-in credits making this phone much more affordable for many people. Now for me, this phone has been very tough for me to use in a closed position. Other people may not have issues with it, but for me, it just wasn't a good experience using the phone when it's closed. The screen was just too narrow for me and too tall for me. So anything outside of swiping away emails or scrolling on social media, I just didn't want to do it. So I was somewhat forced to use the larger screen at all times, even when, conventionally you may not need that type of screen to do what I was doing, like writing a quick text message or anything like that. So for me, it made the phone a little bit too big for everyday usage. And if I'm fumbling with my kid or anything like that, I don't want to have a two-handed device at all times. I typically use smaller phones because of that. I would have loved to see a better camera system and of course better battery life, so this could definitely be an all-day phone for those power users. Look, this is the coolest phone around. I will admit that this phone definitely turns heads when you open it up in front of people. It is really cool. Now, it does have a lot of great utility to it too. So if you're a person, I have a friend of mine that does real estate. He's looking at contracts, he's signing documents, he's annotating photos sent from the inspector. Something like this, he will be over the moon for. He actually bought the Z Fold 2 and he is loving this phone. So there are a lot of people that would use this type of phone. But for most people, the Z Flip 3 will probably be a better option for them. Regardless, if you're that person that needs a 2-in-1, this right here is gonna be the phone to get, hands down. But of course, those are my thoughts. I wanna know what yours are. Sound off down below. I'm Kevin the Tech Ninja, and my son got me sick from daycare and I've had a cold for 2.5 weeks. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.